The stars looked different in the Outer Rim territories. Captain Tejo stood on the bridge of the exploration vessel, persevered and watched the cold light of distant suns through the main view screen. His crew had been traveling for 3 weeks. Now, following energy readings that made no sense according to their instruments, "Captain, we are approaching the source of the anomaly," said Communications Officer Vigen from her station. Her voice carried the excitement that came with discovering something new in the vastness of space. Tejo nodded and turned to his chief engineer. "Mira, what are your sensors telling us?" Mira frowned at her displays. The readings showed patterns she had never seen before. "The energy signature is unlike anything in our databases. It pulses like a heartbeat, but it grows weaker with each pulse." Weapons specialist Dong Wook looked up from his tactical station. "No signs of hostile activity, Captain? Whatever is generating this energy, it does not appear to be a weapon." The Perseverance moved deeper into the unknown star system. They found there would change everything they thought they knew about the galaxy. The system held 5 planets orbiting a dying star. The star itself was collapsing inward, its light growing dimmer by the hour. "Look at the 3rd planet," the Gin said, pointing to her screen. "There are structures on the surface. Massive ones." Tejo moved closer to examine the readings. The structures were clearly artificial, but they were unlike anything humans had ever built. They seemed to grow from the planet itself, reaching toward the dying star like desperate fingers. "Take us into orbit," Tejo ordered. Full sensor sweep. As the Perseverance entered orbit around the 3rd planet, the crew could see the civilization below. Cities that sparkled like jewels covered the continents. But something was wrong. The sparkle was fading and large areas of the planet showed no signs of life. Captain Mira said, her voice quiet with wonder, "I am detecting life signs, but they are not like anything in our records." The beings on the planet below were not carbon-based like humans. They appeared to be made of a crystalline material that caught and reflected light in beautiful patterns. Their cities were grown rather than built, forming organic shapes that flowed like water frozen in time. "We are receiving a transmission," Dajin announced. "It is not in any language we know, but our computers are working on translation." Minutes passed as the ship's artificial intelligence struggled to understand the alien communication. Finally, words began to appear on the screen. "We greet you travelers from the stars. We are the Valari. We have been alone for so long." Tejo felt his heart race. First contact with a new species was something every explorer dreamed of. As more of the message was translated, excitement turned to concern. "We do not have much time. Our star dies, and with it, our world. The great powers of the galaxy have turned away from us. They say we are not worth saving." The full message painted a picture of tragedy. The Valari had once been part of the Galactic Confederation, a union of 7 major species that ruled most of the known galaxy. But when their star began to fail early, the Confederation had written them off as a lost cause. "They told us it was not economically viable to save us," the message continued. "Our world sits on valuable hyperspace routes, but they prefer to wait for us to die rather than spend resources on evacuation." Tejo looked at his crew, saw the same anger in their eyes that he felt in his heart. How could anyone abandon an entire species to die? "Mira, what is the status of their star?" he asked. "Based on the energy readings, they have perhaps 6 months before total collapse. After that, this entire system will become uninhabitable." "How many of them are there?" "Approximately 50,000 individuals concentrated in 3 main cities." Tahoe made a decision that would change the course of galactic history. The Jinn sent a response. "Tell them we are humans from Earth, and we want to help." The response came quickly. "Humans. We do not know this species. You are not part of the Confederation?" "No, we are newcomers to the galaxy. But we believe that no species should be left to die if help is possible." Hours passed as the Perseverance maintained orbit. The Valari were cautious, which Tejo understood. They had been betrayed once by the galaxy's great powers. Why should they trust another unknown species? Finally, an invitation came. "Truly wish to help, we will receive a small party on the surface. But we warn you, there may be danger. The Confederation does not like interference with their plans." Taeho chose to go down himself, along with Mira and Dongwook. They took a shuttle to the largest of the Valari cities, landing in a plaza that had clearly been magnificent once. Now it showed signs of decay and abandonment. The being who greeted them was tall and elegant, his crystalline body catching the dim light of the dying star. When it spoke, its voice was like music. "I am Threnay, elder of the Valari. You are the first outsiders to visit our world in 50 years. Taeho bowed respectfully. "I am Captain Taeho of the human vessel Perseverance. We received your distress signal." "It was not a distress signal," Threnai said sadly. "It was a death song. Our people sing it when hope is gone." "Then let us help you find hope again," Taeho replied. Threnai led them through the city, showing them the wonders of Velar civilization. Their technology was based on harmony with natural forces rather than domination over them. They could grow buildings like plants and channel energy like flowing water. "We were once proud members of the Galactic community," Threnai explained. "We shared our knowledge freely and helped other species when they needed aid. But when our star began to fail, they decided we were no longer useful." "How long ago did they abandon you?" Mira asked. 5 years. They said moving 50,000 beings to new worlds would cost too much. They preferred to wait for our deaths and claim our territory." Dongwook's jaw tightened. "That is not right. No species should be abandoned like that." "You are young species," Threnai said gently. "Perhaps you do not understand the ways of galactic politics. You understand right and wrong," Taeho said firmly. "And this is wrong." As they toured the dying world, Taeho's crew learned more about the Valari. They were peaceful beings who had never waged war on anyone. Their only crime was being in the wrong place when their star decided to die early. "We have technologies that could help many species," Threnai admitted. "But we will not trade our knowledge for our lives. We would rather die with dignity than live as slaves." By the time they returned to the Perseverance, Taeho had made up his mind. He called his senior staff together in the conference room. "We cannot let them die," he said simply. "It goes against everything we believe as humans." "But Captain," the Jin said carefully, "we are only one ship. How can we possibly evacuate 50,000 beings?" "Start with what we can do," Taeho replied. "We contact Earth. We tell them what we have found. We make sure the galaxy knows that humanity will not stand by while innocent beings are left to die." Mira nodded. "I have been studying their technology. If we can help them adapt it, they might be able to survive on human worlds. Confederation will not like our interference," Dongwook warned. "Then they will have to learn to live with disappointment," Taeho said. "Send the message to Earth. Tell them we have found people who need our help." As the Perseverance maintained orbit around the dying world, its crew prepared for what might be humanity's first great test as a galactic species. They did not know that their simple act of compassion would reshape the entire galaxy. Below them, the Valari continued their death song. But for the first time in years, there was a note of hope in their crystalline voices. The humans had come, and perhaps they would not die alone after all. Admiral Jae-sung stood in the command center of Earth Defense Force headquarters. Staring at the encrypted message from Captain Taeho, the holographic display showed the dying Valari star system, complete with population estimates and timeline projections. 50,000 beings had 6 months to live, and the galaxy's most powerful alliance had chosen to let them die. "This puts us in a difficult position," said General Borum, the head of military operations. "We are still new to the Galactic Confederation. We cannot afford to anger them, but we cannot let innocent people die either," Admiral Jae-sung replied. He had served in the Earth Defense Force for 30 years, but he had never faced a choice like this one. Meanwhile, aboard the Perseverance, Chief Engineer Mira worked alongside Valari scientists in their crystal laboratories. The Valari had agreed to share some of their knowledge in exchange for human help, but their technology was unlike anything humans had encountered. "Your energy systems are so different from ours," said the Valari scientist Kethel. His crystalline body pulsed with soft blue light as he spoke. "Channel natural forces through living crystal networks. Your people use mechanical systems to force energy into desired patterns." Mira studied the flowing energy patterns on Kethel's displays. Could your technology work on human worlds? Our planets have different energy fields than yours. It might be possible, Kethel admitted, but we would need to completely redesign our life support systems. Our people cannot survive without specific harmonic frequencies. The challenge was greater than anyone had imagined. The Valari were not just refugees who needed transportation. They were beings whose very existence depended on environmental conditions that existed nowhere else in the galaxy. Back on Earth, Dr. Hyenwu led a team of scientists analyzing the data from the Perseverance. His laboratory buzzed with activity as researchers tried to understand Valari biology and technology. They are not just made of crystal, Dr. Hyenwu explained to the Emergency Council. They are living beings whose consciousness exists in harmonic resonance patterns. Moving them to a new world is like trying to transplant music itself. President Inho of the Earth Federation listened to the reports with growing concern. Cost of helping the Valari would be enormous, and success was far from guaranteed. What are our options? He asked. We could try to evacuate them to specially built habitats, Dr. Hyenwu said. That would require resources we do not have, and technology we have not yet developed. Or we could find a way to extend their star's life, Admiral Jae Sung suggested. Give them more time to adapt or find another solution. That would require technology beyond our current capabilities, Dr. Hyenwu replied. We would need help from other species. Help that the Galactic Confederation has already refused to provide. General Borum pointed out. While Earth's leaders debated, Captain Tejo faced his own difficult choices. His orders were to observe and report, not to engage in unauthorized humanitarian missions. But every day he spent in orbit around the dying world. He watched the Valari cities grow dimmer. Communications officer Vijin brought him daily reports from the surface. The Valari are trying to remain hopeful, but their energy reserves are failing faster than expected. Elder Threnai says they may have only 4 months instead of 6. What about evacuation possibilities? Tejo asked. The younger Valari are more adaptable, the Jinn reported. There is a leader named Velmer who believes his people can learn to survive in different environments. But the elders are more cautious. Tejo made a decision that would define the rest of his career. Send a message to Earth. Tell them we are beginning preliminary evacuation procedures. We will start with volunteers who are willing to risk the journey. Weapons Specialist Dong Wook looked up from his station. Captain, that goes against our orders. We are supposed to wait for official authorization. Sometimes doing the right thing means breaking the rules, Tejo replied. I would rather face a court-martial than watch 50,000 beings die because we were too afraid to act. The first evacuation ship arrived within days. Captain Beho commanded the cargo vessel New Soul, which had been quickly converted to carry passengers. His crew included volunteers from across human space, people who had heard about the Valari and wanted to help. We are not military, Captain Beho told Tejo over the communication link. We are just people who believe that saving lives is more important than following orders. More ships followed. Captain Yunha brought the medical vessel Healing Light, equipped with experimental life support systems designed to accommodate Valari physiology. Her medical team included Dr. Na Young, who had studied the preliminary data about Valari biology. We have no idea if our medicine will work on them, Dr. Na Young admitted, but we have to try. The growing human fleet in the Valari system did not go unnoticed. Within a week, the Galactic Confederation sent a formal protest to Earth. The human species is interfering with established galactic law, the message stated. The Valari system has been classified as a dead zone. No intervention is permitted. Ambassador Su Ben represented Earth in the emergency session called by the Confederation. She stood before representatives of 7 species, each more powerful than humanity. We are not interfering with galactic law, she said calmly. or guy whereas L wall or more I or why so why descend rate I we right we. The Valari situation has been evaluated and deemed unsalvageable, replied the Korath representative. Resources spent on them would be wasted. Human resources are not your concern, Ambassador Subin replied. Choose how to use our own ships and people. The Nexari representative, a creature that looked like a walking tree, spoke in a voice like rustling leaves. You do not understand the economics of galactic civilization. Every resource has a cost. The Valari cannot repay what it would cost to save them. Some things are more important than profit, Ambassador Subin said. The Confederation's response was swift and harsh. They imposed trade restrictions on human space and threatened to revoke Earth's membership in the galactic community. You have 1 week to withdraw your ships from the Valari system, the Confederation ultimatum stated. After that, we will consider your actions an act of rebellion. News of the ultimatum reached the Perseverance quickly. Captain Tejo called his senior staff together to discuss their options. We could withdraw and avoid a conflict with the Confederation, suggested the Jinn. Earth might be able to negotiate a compromise. While we negotiate, the Valari die, Mira pointed out. Their star will not wait for galactic politics. If we stay, we risk war, Dongwook warned. The Confederation has military forces we cannot match. Tejo looked at each of his officers. These were good people who had signed up to explore the galaxy, not to fight impossible battles. Could not ask them to sacrifice their lives for strangers. Anyone who wants to leave can take a shuttle back to Earth, he said. I will not order anyone to stay for what might be a suicide mission. Nobody moved, nobody spoke. I pen some sefer I for I since my bonnet I Captain, we knew this job might require us to do difficult things. This is one of those times. The Valari have been abandoned by everyone else, the Jinn added. If we leave too, they will know that there is no justice in the galaxy. Then we stay, Tejo decided. We hope that doing the right thing will be enough. Take back on Earth. Public. Opinion was split. Some people supported the Valari rescue mission, calling it humanity's duty to help those in need. Others worried about the cost of opposing the Galactic Confederation. Dr. Hyenwu worked around the clock to develop solutions. His breakthrough came when he realized that Valari technology might be the key to their own survival. They have mastered energy manipulation in ways we never imagined, he told Admiral Jae-sung. If we can combine their knowledge with our engineering, we might be able to create portable habitat systems. How long would that take? The Admiral asked. Months, maybe years, time we do not have. The crisis deepened when Elder Threne sent a message to Captain Tejo. Young human, your people show great courage, but we cannot let you destroy yourselves for us. Perhaps it is time for the Valari to accept their fate. Never, Tejo replied. We do not abandon our friends. We have been friends for only days, Threne observed. That is long enough, Tejo answered, as the Confederation ultimatum deadline approached. More human ships arrived in the Valari system. They came from colonies across human space, carrying supplies and volunteers. The rescue mission had become something larger than anyone had planned. It had become a test of what humanity stood for in the galaxy. And Captain Tejo, sitting in his command chair aboard the Perseverance, knew that there was no turning back. The choice had been made. Now they would live or die with the consequences. The emergency session hall of the Galactic Confederation buzzed with tension as representatives from 7 species gathered to address the human problem. Ambassador Subin sat alone at the small table reserved for Earth, surrounded by beings who had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. The Korath representative stood first. Thaxmer was a massive creature, covered in natural armor plating, his voice like grinding stone. The humans must withdraw from the Valari system immediately. Their interference threatens established galactic order. Order built on letting innocent beings die, Ambassador Subin replied calmly. Earth cannot accept such order. The Nexari delegate rustled its leaf-like appendages, and what humans had learned was a sign of displeasure. Young species always think they know better than established wisdom. The Valari situation was evaluated by our best economists and strategists. Saving them is not cost-effective. Cost-effective, Subin repeated. Is that how you measure the value of 50,000 lives? Resources are finite, the Korath growled. Every ship and every person spent on a doomed rescue is a resource not available for more important tasks. Behind the public debate, the real reasons for Confederation opposition became clear. The Valari system sat at the intersection of three major hyperspace routes. When the Valari died, those routes would be free for the taking. Several species had already made secret agreements about how to divide the territory. The humans are disrupting plans that have been in place for years, the Nexari whispered to its ally. If the Valari survive, our expansion into that sector becomes impossible. Meanwhile, in the Valari system, Captain Tejo watched more human ships arrive each day. The rescue fleet had grown beyond anything he had imagined. Ships came from Earth, from human colonies, from trading stations across human space. Some were military vessels, but most were civilian ships converted for the rescue mission. Captain Beho coordinated the growing fleet from his cargo. Hauler knew Sol. His manifest showed dozens of ships, medical vessels, cargo haulers, passenger transports, even a few luxury yachts whose owners had volunteered their ships for the cause. We have evacuation capacity for maybe 5,000 Valari, he reported to Captain Tejo. But we still do not have a place to take them. That was the crucial problem. The Valari could not survive on normal planets. They needed specific harmonic frequencies and energy patterns that existed nowhere else in the galaxy. Simply moving them to human worlds would kill them as surely as their dying star. Chief Engineer Mira had been working with Valari scientist Kethel to solve this problem. Their laboratory aboard the Perseverance had become a center of desperate innovation. We have made a breakthrough, Mira announced during the daily briefing. The Valari energy manipulation technology can be adapted to create artificial harmonic fields. How artificial? Captain Tejo asked. We can build devices that generate the frequencies they need to survive, Kethel explained, but the power requirements are enormous. Each device would need its own fusion reactor. How many devices would we need? One for every 50 Valari. It means we need 1,000 fusion reactors just to keep them alive. The number was staggering. Humanity had maybe 200 fusion reactors in their entire space fleet. Building 1,000 more would take years and resources they did not have. There might be another way, Mira said quietly. The Valari have showed me something called resonance amplification. If we can create a few very powerful harmonic generators, they might be able to support much larger populations. What would that require? Tejo asked. Rare materials that only exist in Confederation space, technology that we do not have. The confession hung in the air like a death sentence. They had the knowledge to save the Valari, but not the resources to do it. On the surface of the dying Valari world, Elder Threnai held council with his people. The great crystal chambers that had once held thousands now echoed with the voices of only a few hundred. Most of the Valari had already died as their star grew weaker. The humans offer us hope, said Velmer, the young leader who had become an advocate for accepting human help.
Ow!
But hope without substance is cruel. They risk everything for us, Threnai replied. The least we can do is trust them. Trust them to do what? Asked an elderly Valari named Shender.
Yes.
They cannot change the laws of physics. They cannot bring our star back to life. No, Threnai agreed. They can show us that we are not alone. For 50 years, we have sung our death songs in silence. Now someone hears us. The political situation grew worse. when the Confederation imposed a complete trade embargo on human space. Ships carrying food, medicine, and raw materials to human colonies were turned away at Confederation checkpoints. They are trying to force us to abandon the Valari by threatening our own people. Admiral Jason told the Emergency Council on Earth, "Our outer colonies are already reporting shortages." President Inho faced the hardest decision of his career. How long can our colonies survive without Confederation trade? "Maybe 6 months," replied Economic Minister Wu Jin. "After that, we start losing people to starvation and disease." "The same timeline as the Valari," the president observed grimly. The Confederation had calculated well. If Earth continued to help the Valar, human colonies would begin dying just as the Valari star finally collapsed. The choice was stark: save the Valar and watch human worlds starve, or abandon the rescue and preserve human lives. But the Confederation had underestimated human determination. News of the embargo sparked something unexpected across human space. Instead of demanding that Earth abandon the Valar, human colonies began organizing their own relief efforts. "We can survive on short rations," announced Governor Kiangsu of the New Buzong colony. "We will not abandon people who need our help." "The Valari crisis is a test of what we believe as humans," added Governor He, one of the Jeju mining station. "We choose to help." Similar messages came from human settlements across the galaxy. The embargo had backfired, turning the Valari rescue into a symbol of human identity and values. Captain Tejo received these messages with mixed emotions. He was proud of his species, but he also knew that noble intentions could not solve the technical problems they faced. "We have the will to save them," he told his senior staff, "but we still do not have the means." The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Communications Officer Thagin had been monitoring Confederation communications channels, trying to understand their military movements. What she found was something else entirely. "Captain, I am detecting coded transmissions from some of the Confederation species. They are not talking to their own governments." "Who are they talking to?" "Us. Or rather, they are trying to talk to us." "It looks like some Confederation members disagree with the embargo." The messages, when decoded, revealed a shocking truth. Several of the Confederation's minor species secretly supported the human rescue mission. The Rilani, a species of peaceful traders, had been quietly providing intelligence about Confederation military movements. The Soft R, an academic species known for their scholarly pursuits, had been sharing technical data that might help solve the Valari survival problem. "Why are they helping us?" Captain Tejo asked. "Because they remember what it was like to be weak," Thagin replied. "The Rilani were once refugees themselves. The Softer have always believed that knowledge should be shared to help others. The Secret Alliance gave new hope to the rescue mission. The Softar provided data about harmonic frequency generation that filled gaps in human and Valari knowledge. The Rilani offered to smuggle rare materials needed for the harmonic generators. But the Alliance also brought new dangers. If the Confederation discovered that some of their own members were supporting the humans, the political crisis could explode into open war. "We are walking a tightrope," Admiral Jason warned in his latest message to Captain Tejo. "One wrong step, and we fall into a conflict we cannot win." "Then we do not make any wrong steps," Tejo replied. As the Confederation ultimatum deadline approached, the human fleet in the Valari system prepared for the worst. Weapons specialist Dong Wook had been working with the other ships to coordinate defensive positions. "We have 43 vessels," he reported. "Most are civilian ships with minimal weapons. If the Confederation sends a battle fleet, we will not be able to fight them. Then we will have to hope they do not send one," Tejo said. But even as he spoke, long-range sensors detected ships approaching the Valari system. The Confederation had sent a fleet after all, and it was bigger than anything the humans could possibly face. "Confederation battle fleet approaching," the Jin announced. "Estimated arrival in 6 hours." Captain Tejo looked at the tactical display showing the approaching threat. Dozens of warships, each one capable of destroying his entire fleet. The Confederation had decided to end the human interference once and for all. "Send a message to all ships," he ordered. "Anyone who wants to leave can go now. No one will think less of them." The responses came quickly. Not a single ship requested. Permission to withdraw. The humans had made their choice, and they would stand by it regardless of the consequences. Then we face them together, Tejo said. And we hope that doing the right thing counts for something in the end. The die had been cast. In 6 hours, the fate of the Valari, and perhaps of humanity itself, would be decided. The Confederation battle fleet emerged from hyperspace like a storm made of metal and energy. Admiral Thaxmer commanded 60 warships from the bridge of the massive dreadnought Galactic Justice. His orders were simple: remove the human ships from the Valari system by any means necessary. Captain Tejo watched the enemy fleet take position around his small rescue flotilla. 43 human ships faced 60 Confederation warships. The odds were not just impossible, they were laughable. "They are hailing us, communications officer," the Jinn reported. "Put them through," Tejo ordered. Admiral Thaxmer's armored face filled the main screen. "Human captain, you have 30 minutes to withdraw your ships from this system. After that, we will consider you hostile forces and act accordingly." "We are not hostile forces," Tejo replied calmly. "We are humanitarian workers trying to save innocent lives. You are criminals interfering with galactic law. The Valari system is classified as a dead zone. No unauthorized vessels are permitted." "Then authorize us," suggested Captain Tejo over the communication channel. "Give us permission to save these people." "The Confederation does not negotiate with rebels," Thaxmer growled. "You have 30 minutes. The channel closed, leaving the human fleet alone with an impossible decision. Retreat and let the Valari die, or stay and face annihilation. "All ship captains, this is Tejo," he broadcast to the rescue fleet. "Anyone who wants to leave should go now. What happens next will not be pretty." The responses came immediately. From every ship in the fleet, new souls standing by, healing light remaining in position. Star of Busan, ready for whatever comes. 43 ships, 43 crews who had chosen to risk everything for strangers. They had never met before a few weeks ago. Down on the Valari homeworld, Elder Threne felt the approach of the Confederation fleet through the harmonic vibrations that carried news across his world. His people gathered in the great crystal chambers, their songs taking on notes of sadness and resignation. "The humans will be destroyed because of us," said Velmer, the young Valari leader. "We cannot let them sacrifice themselves. They chose this path," Threne replied. "Hey, we cannot take that choice away from them. We can make it mean something," suggested another Valari named Kirienta. "If they fight for us, perhaps we should fight alongside them." The idea was revolutionary. Valari had not fought anyone in over 1,000 years. They were artists and scientists, not warriors. But they had technologies that the humans lacked, and perhaps those could make a difference. Aboard the Perseverance, Chief Engineer Mira worked frantically with Valari scientist Kethel to adapt their harmonic technology for combat use. It was a desperate plan, but it might be their only chance. "Valari harmonic fields can disrupt energy patterns," Kethel explained. "If we can project the right frequencies, we might be able to interfere. With Confederation weapons." "How close would we need to get?" Mira asked. "Very close. The effect has limited range, and our projectors are not built for combat conditions." "Then we get close," Mira decided. "Whatever it takes." While the engineers worked, the human fleet prepared for battle in their own way. Captain Yunhar turned her medical ship Healing Light into a mobile hospital. Dr. Nayoung and her medical team prepared to treat wounded from any species, including the Confederation forces they were about to fight. "We will not let anyone die. If we can help it," Dr. Nayoung announced. "That includes our enemies." It was a typically human approach to warfare. Prepare to fight while also preparing to heal. The 30-minute deadline passed without any human ships leaving the system. Admiral Thaxmer gave the order to advance. The Confederation fleet moved forward in perfect formation, their weapons charging for the coming battle. "Confederation vessels are powering weapons," weapons specialist Dong Wook reported. "All ships, prepare for combat." The human fleet moved to intercept, but they were not alone. From the surface of the dying Valari world, 3 ancient ships rose to join them. The vessels were works of art, grown rather than built, their crystalline hulls catching and reflecting the light of the dying star. "This is Velmer of the Valari Defense Corps," came the transmission. We stand with our human friends. The Volari ships were not designed for war, but they carried technology that could change the balance of the fight. It's the Confederation fleet opened fire. Harmonic fields projected by the Volari ships began disrupting enemy weapon systems. The first exchange of fire lit up space between the fleets. Confederation plasma bolts and particle beams lanced out toward the human ships, but many of them flickered and died as they passed through the Volari harmonic fields. "It is working," Mira shouted over the noise of battle. "The Volari technology is disrupting their weapons." But the effect was not perfect, and the Confederation had too many ships. Human vessels began taking hits, their shields flaring and failing under the sustained assault. "New Sol is taking heavy damage, Captain," Beho reported. "We are losing engine power." "Healing light moving to assist," Captain Yunha announced, steering her medical ship toward the damaged cargo hauler. The battle became a chaotic dance of ships, trying to protect each other while the Confederation fleet systematically worked to destroy them. But something unexpected began to happen within the Confederation ranks. "Sir, the Rolani squadron is not firing," reported Admiral Thaxmer, tactical officer. "What do you mean not firing?" "Their weapons are powered but not engaging targets. They claim technical difficulties." Similar reports came in from other parts of the Confederation fleet. The soft tar vessels were having navigation problems that kept them out of effective firing positions. Even some Korath ships seemed to be experiencing unusual equipment failures. The secret alliance that had been providing intelligence to the humans was now actively sabotaging the Confederation attack. Species that had been forced to go along with the embargo were finding ways to avoid participating in the destruction of the rescue fleet. "This is mutiny," Admiral Thaxmer snarled. "All ships that refuse to engage will be considered hostile." But the threat rang hollow. Too many ships were experiencing problems for him to fight both the humans and half his own fleet. The tide of battle shifted when engineers Kyung-ho, aboard the cargo hauler Star of Busan, came up with a desperate innovation. "If we cannot match their firepower, maybe we can confuse their targeting." He began broadcasting false sensor readings that made human ships appear to be in different locations than they actually were. Combined with the Volari harmonic disruption, the Confederation fleet found itself firing at ghosts while the real targets slipped through their formation. Impossible. Admiral Thaxmer muttered as his sensors showed human ships that vanished when fired upon and reappeared somewhere else entirely, but the human fleet was still outnumbered and outgunned. Ships were taking damage faster than they could be repaired, and casualties were mounting. The medical ship Healing Light was overwhelmed with wounded from both sides of the battle. "We cannot keep this up much longer," Captain Tejo admitted during a brief lull in the fighting. "We need a miracle." The miracle came from an unexpected source. Elder Threnay appeared on the communication channels, his crystalline form glowing with purpose. "Human friends, we have one last gift to offer." "The Volari have kept this secret for 1,000 years, but perhaps now is the time to share it." "Secret?" Tejo asked. "We know how to manipulate stellar energy. We can extend the life of our dying star, or we can make it burn brighter than ever before." The implications hit everyone at once. If the Volari could control their star, they could create an energy pulse that would disable every ship in the system. It would be like setting off an electromagnetic bomb that affected an entire solar system. "The pulse will disable all technology temporarily," Threnay warned. "Every ship will be powerless for several hours, but it will give us time to evacuate our people. It will also leave everyone defenseless," Tejo pointed out, "including your own people." "We are dying anyway," Threnay replied. "This way our death might have meaning." The decision hung in the balance. Use the Volari stellar manipulation to end the battle, but risk everything on a desperate gamble that they could evacuate 50,000 beings. Before the Confederation fleet recovered, Captain Tejo looked at his battered fleet at the Volari ships fighting alongside them at the Confederation vessels that were slowly but surely winning the battle. He thought about the 43 human crews who had risked everything for strangers. About the Volari, who were about to sacrifice their greatest secret to save their people. "Do it," he decided. "Whatever happens next, we face it together." Elder. Thranee's form blazed with light as he began the process that would either save his people or destroy them all. The dying star began to pulse with new energy, building toward a release that would change everything. The battle was about to end. But the war for the galaxy's soul had just begun. The dying star began to pulse with power that had been sleeping for thousands of years. Deep within the stellar core, ancient Vellery technology awakened, turning a collapsing sun into the galaxy's most powerful weapon. Elder Thranei stood in the crystal chamber beneath his world's surface, his form blazing with harmonics as he channeled energies that could destroy entire fleets. All ships prepare for stellar pulse. Captain Tejo broadcast to every vessel in the system.
Ow.
This will disable all technology for approximately 6 hours. After that, we evacuate everyone we can. Admiral Thaxmer watched his sensors with growing alarm as the Velari star began exhibiting impossible energy patterns. "What are they doing to their sun?" he demanded. "Unknown, sir," his tactical officer replied. "But energy levels are climbing beyond our measurement capabilities." The pulse erupted from the star like a wave of pure force. It swept across the entire system in seconds, washing over every ship with energy that disrupted every electronic system it touched. Engines died, weapons powered down, life support systems flickered and went dark. In the sudden silence that followed, both fleets found themselves drifting powerless in the void. Emergency lighting cast eerie shadows on the bridges of ships that had been locked in deadly combat moments before. "Emergency power only," Chief Engineer Mira reported from the Perseverance. "All main systems are offline, but backup life support is functioning." Similar reports came from every human ship. They were alive but helpless, floating in space with no engines, no weapons, and no communication systems beyond short-range emergency transmitters. The Confederation fleet faced the same situation. Admiral Thaxmer's mighty dreadnought was now just an enormous piece of drifting metal. Its advanced weapons and shields as useless as ancient artifacts, but the humans had prepared for this moment. Captain Tejo had positioned his ships carefully before the pulse, and now the real evacuation began. Small shuttles with manual controls and mechanical systems started launching from the human vessels. Heading for the Velari homeworld, Engineer Kung Ho had spent the past week modifying shuttle engines to run on simple chemical fuel instead of complex energy systems. Modifications were crude and dangerous, but they worked when nothing else would. "First shuttle wave launching," reported Captain Beho from the powerless New Sol. "We have manual control and basic navigation." Shuttles descended through the atmosphere of the dying world like metal rain. Each one could carry 20 Velari if they packed them carefully, and the human crews worked with desperate efficiency to load refugees. Medical Officer Nayoung led teams on the surface, helping weak and dying Velari into the rescue shuttles. Many of the crystalline beings were already fading, their life force dimming as their star died. But others, especially the younger Velari, seemed to gain strength from the hope of escape. "We can save maybe 10,000 in the first wave," Dr. Nayoung reported through her mechanical communication device. "But we need the ships back online for the rest." Velmer worked alongside the human rescue teams, his crystalline form pulsing. "With determination, my people have given up hope for so long. Now they see that someone cares enough to risk everything for us." The young Velari leader had become a bridge between the two species, translating not just languages but hopes and dreams. He showed the humans which Velari were strong enough to survive the journey, and he convinced frightened refugees to trust the strange alien rescuers. Meanwhile, aboard the disabled Confederation ships, a different drama was unfolding. Without the formal command structure that had forced them to attack the humans, individual crews began making their own choices. "Sir, the Rilani vessel Peaceful Trader is launching shuttles toward the Velari world," Admiral Thaxmer's communications officer reported. "To do what?" "Unknown, sir. Cannot contact them with our systems down." The Rilani were not the only ones. Softar science vessels began deploying research pods that could operate without main ship power. Even some Korath crews, moved by what they were witnessing, started launching emergency craft. They are helping with the evacuation, realized Commander Felinara, Thaxmer second in command.
Ow.
Our own allies are betraying us. Or perhaps they are remembering what it means to be civilized, Admiral Thaxmer said quietly. The massive Koroth warrior had commanded fleets for 50 years, but he had never seen anything like this. The evacuation became a race against time and the limits of the human fleet. Each shuttle could make only one trip before the ship's power returned. And there were 40,000 Valari still on the dying world. Captain Yunha converted her medical ship Healing Light into a mobile Valari hospital. Dr. Na Young and her team worked around the clock to keep rescued Valari alive, learning their biology through desperate trial and error. Their life signs are unlike anything we have seen, Dr. Na Young reported, but they respond to harmonics. If we can generate the right frequencies, we can stabilize them. The breakthrough came when Valari scientist Kethel showed the humans how to use their own crystalline technology to create life support systems. The rescued Valari could generate harmonics for each other, creating a network of mutual support. We are stronger together, Kethel explained. Alone, we fade and die. Together, we can survive even in alien environments. As the hours passed, the human shuttles made trip after trip to the Valari surface. The evacuation proceeded with mechanical precision, but everyone knew they were running out of time. The stellar pulse would not last forever, and when the Confederation ships regained power, the battle would resume. 4 hours remaining before system recovery, Mira announced. We have evacuated 15,000 Valari. It was progress, but not enough. 35,000 beings remained on the dying world. The human fleet could not carry them all even if they had unlimited time. The solution came from an unexpected source. Elder Threnay appeared in the human evacuation center, his crystal, form dimmed but still radiant with purpose. There is another way, he said. The young Valari can learn to change themselves. To adapt to new worlds without the technology we have always relied upon? What do you mean? Captain Tejo asked. Evolution, Threnay replied. Not over millions of years, but in days. Our people have the ability to modify their own harmonic patterns. The young ones can learn to survive in human environments. Velmer stepped forward. I have been studying the humans since you arrived. Your people adapt to new situations by changing your technology. We can adapt by changing ourselves. The idea was revolutionary. Instead of building artificial environments for the Valari, they could modify themselves to live in human worlds. It would require abandoning much of their traditional culture, but it would save lives. How many could make this change? Tejo asked. Perhaps half of those who remain, Velmer estimated. The others are too old or too set in the traditional ways, and the others? Elder Threnay's form pulsed with sad acceptance. The others will sing their death songs as our ancestors intended, but they will sing knowing that our people will survive. The evacuation entered its final phase as young Valari began the transformation that would let them survive on human worlds. It was painful and dangerous, but it offered hope where none had existed before. Power restoration in 1 hour, Engineer Kung Ho announced. Final shuttle runs, departing now. As the human shuttles made their last trips to the Valari surface, both sides prepared for the resumption of hostilities. But something had changed during the evacuation. Confederation crews had seen human medical teams treating wounded enemies. They had watched desperate beings risk everything to save strangers. When power finally returned to the ships, Admiral Thaxmer found his fleet in chaos. Half his crews refused orders to attack the humans. The other half demanded to know why they were fighting people who had spent 6 hours saving lives instead of escaping. Sir, we have a problem, his communications officer reported. The minor species are requesting permission to defect from the Confederation. The evacuation had done more than save Valari lives. It had shown the entire galaxy what was possible. When beings chose compassion over politics, hope over despair, the battle was over, but the real victory was just beginning. 3 months after the stellar pulse that changed everything, Ambassador Subin stood before the reformed Galactic Assembly. The old Confederation building had been replaced with a circular chamber where no species sat higher than any other. Representatives from 47 different worlds watched as she presented the new sanctuary principle. No species shall be abandoned to extinction for political or economic reasons. She read from the document that 23 worlds had already signed. Every being has the right to ask for help, and every species has the duty to provide aid. When possible, the Korath representative, now a different individual than the warlike Thaxmer, nodded slowly. The Korath Empire accepts this principle. We have seen what happens when strength is used to abandon the weak instead of protecting them. Admiral Thaxmer himself sat in the observers section, no longer wearing the uniform of Confederation military command. He had resigned his position after the Volari evacuation, saying that he could not serve a system that valued territory more than lives. I spent 50 years following orders that I thought were necessary, he had told the inquiry. Bored. But necessity should never require us to watch innocent beings die. The transformation of galactic politics had been swift and dramatic. The minor species that had secretly helped the humans during the crisis now openly demanded reform. Rilani and Softar led a coalition that threatened to leave the old Confederation entirely unless fundamental changes were made. President Inho of Earth watched the proceedings through a holographic link from his office. The trade embargo that had threatened human colonies was now a memory, replaced by new agreements that made Earth a major power in galactic affairs. The Volari Technology Sharing Program has revolutionized our capabilities. Science Minister Heinwu reported during the daily briefing. Their stellar energy manipulation combined with our engineering has given us faster ships, more efficient power systems, and defensive capabilities beyond anything we imagined. The transformation had been dramatic but not without cost. 17,000 Volari had died during the evacuation, and many more had perished when their star finally collapsed 2 weeks after the rescue. But 28,000 had survived, and they were thriving in their new homes across human space. Captain Tejo stood on the observation deck of New Terra Station, watching shuttles arrive from the planet below. The first permanent Volari colony was located on a world that humans had terraformed specifically for their new allies. Crystal spires grew alongside human buildings, creating architecture that neither species could have imagined alone. The morning, "Report, Captain," said his aide, Lieutenant Dongmin. Tejo had been promoted to Admiral and given command of the new Galactic Protection Fleet, but he still preferred the title that had carried him through the crisis. "How are the integration programs proceeding?" Tejo asked. "The young Volari who modified themselves are adapting well to human environments. Velmer reports that they are developing new harmonic patterns that work with human technology." Velmer had become the unofficial leader of the adapted Volari. His people could now survive on human worlds without artificial life support, though they still preferred the crystal gardens that reminded them of their lost home. The traditional Volari group has established a community in the new Sol system. They require the harmonic generators, but the technology is becoming more efficient every month. Chief Engineer Mira appeared on the deck carrying a datapad with the latest technical reports. She'd been working with Volari scientists to develop new applications for their combined technologies. "The latest tests are remarkable," she told Tejo. "We can now generate artificial gravity using harmonic fields instead of rotation. And the new shield systems can absorb energy attacks and convert them into power for our own weapons." The military applications were impressive, but what excited Mira more were the peaceful uses. Volari harmonic farming could grow crops in space without soil or sunlight. Their healing frequencies could treat diseases that human medicine had never been able to cure. "We are planning the first joint colony ship," Mira continued. "Humans and Volari working together to establish settlements in previously uninhabitable systems." Communications officer the Jean joined them on the observation deck. She had been monitoring galactic communications and brought news from across known space. "The sanctuary principle is spreading faster than we anticipated," she reported. 12 more species have requested to join the new alliance. 3 others are asking for help with problems their own governments cannot solve. "What kind of problems?" Tejo asked. "The Zephyrians are facing an ecological disaster on their homeworld. The Crystalline Collective has a plague that their medical technology cannot cure. The nomad fleets are running out of resources and need new homes. Each crisis represented an opportunity to apply the lessons learned during the Valari rescue. The Galactic Protection Fleet was no longer just a human organization. R'Lani trade ships carried emergency supplies. Softar science vessels provided research support, and even reformed Korath warships protected evacuation convoys. "We have received a formal request from the Zephyrian government," the Jinn continued. "They want our help with atmospheric restoration. Their industrial pollution has made large portions of their world uninhabitable." "Approve the mission," Teho decided. "But make sure it is a joint operation. The Softar have expertise in atmospheric science, and the R'Lani can provide the necessary equipment." The pattern had become standard. Identify the problem, assemble a coalition of species with relevant skills, and solve it together. It was a reproach that the old Confederation had never attempted, preferring to let member species handle their own problems or simply write them off as unsolvable. Dr. Nayang arrived with the weekly medical report. She had become the leading expert on interspecies medicine, treating beings from dozens of different worlds. "The Valari healing techniques are revolutionizing our understanding of medicine," she reported. "Their harmonic therapy can repair genetic damage, accelerate healing, and even restore lost limbs in some species." "Any word on the crystalline collective plague?" Teho asked. "We think the Valari frequencies might be able to disrupt the disease organism. I'm preparing a joint medical mission with Kethel and 3 other Valari healers." The integration of Velar and human medicine represented something larger: the emergence of a truly galactic civilization based on cooperation rather than competition. Species shared their knowledge freely, knowing that helping others ultimately helped themselves. Velmer approached the group, his crystalline form now subtly different from traditional Valari. The adaptation process had changed not just his biology, but his perspective on what it meant to be Valar. "The Council of Elders has made a decision," he announced. "We will share the complete stellar manipulation technology with all Alliance members." The offer was staggering. Stellar manipulation could turn dying stars into energy sources, create artificial suns for new colonies, and provide unlimited clean power for entire civilizations. "That is incredibly generous," Teho said. "Are you certain?" "We have learned from humans that hoarding knowledge leads to stagnation," Velmer replied. "Sharing it leads to growth. Our people want to see what amazing things the galaxy can accomplish when everyone works together." 6 months later, the first interspecies colony ship departed from Earth orbit. The vessel itself was a marvel of combined technology, human engineering, Valari harmonic systems, R'Lani navigation equipment, and Softar scientific instruments. Captain Yun Ha commanded the ship, which carried 2,000 colonists from 7 different species. They were heading for a system where 3 species could share a single world, each contributing their unique abilities to create something greater than any of them could achieve alone. "This is what we fought for," Captain Teho said as he watched the colony ship disappear into hyperspace. "Not just to save the Valari, but to prove that the galaxy could be better than it was." Elder Threnai, now living in the Crystal Gardens of New Terra, had become a symbol of wisdom for the new alliance. His decision to share the stellar manipulation technology had made him the most revered figure in galactic politics. "You humans taught us something we had forgotten," he told Teho during one of their regular meetings. "Hope is not something you wait for, it is something you create through action." The old Galactic Confederation still existed, but it was a shadow of its former self. Most of its member species had either joined the new alliance or adopted similar principles. The few holdouts found themselves increasingly isolated as the galaxy moved toward cooperation and mutual aid. "The transformation is not complete," Ambassador Subin reported in her latest address to the Galactic Assembly. "There are still species that prefer the old ways of competition and exploitation, but they are becoming fewer every year, and if they do not change, that's the R'Lani representative, then they will be left behind," Subin replied. "The galaxy is moving forward, with or without them." As Captain Teho stood on his observation deck watching ships from dozens of worlds work together in the space around New Terra, he thought about how much had changed since that first day in the Valari system. They had started with a simple goal: save 50,000 dying beings. In doing so, they had saved the soul of galactic civilization itself. The stars looked different now. Instead of cold points of light separated by vast distances, they seemed connected by invisible threads of hope and cooperation. Humanity had found its place in the galaxy not as conquerors or subjects, but as the species that reminded everyone else what it meant to care. The rescue of the Valari had ended, but the work of building a better galaxy had just begun. And for the first time in galactic history, beings across the stars believed that such a thing was possible.